You asked for it. It's 2007. We're going to build ourselves the ultimate gaming PC. Here we go. We've had this here on the channel before. It's 2007. I'm going to put this video up on, I don't know if you've heard of it, YouTube. But you can check it out there in glorious, 360p. But I need an editing PC because I've been listening to Rihanna's Umbrella. And man, that's my jam. But I want to make a video that's just like maybe giving that a review, or oh man, Transformers just came out and Megan Fox is a fox.
Take it all apart, clean it, put it back together.
Or maybe I need to talk about all the great job George W. Bush has been doing, because I was able to get a freaking loan at the bank to cover all this stuff. No problem, no questions asked. I don't even have a job. So we got the we got the Zalman. I know this is a little weird, but we're gonna need an upgraded CPU cooler if we're going to play with this brand new Q6600 quad-core processor. That quad-core? That's insane. So many cores. And then I maxed out the RAM. I got 4 gigabytes, 2 times. Like, this was an arm and a leg, man. But thank God I got that loan. And then we upgraded. We got this PC here. We see this. There's a video about it right here. But we're upgrading it to the best there ever was in 2007. And we need a better power supply for that, because I don't have the cables for this one. It'll probably handle it anyways. Because you know what? If you're gonna go all out, and George W. Bush's America is you need horsepower. Horsepower be damned. We got SLI 8800 Ultras right here. We're gonna put this in the computer, and we're gonna play BioShock at 720p max settings. It's gonna be awesome. So cue up that intro. I don't know why I'm saying that, because YouTube's barely a thing yet. But if you like me, you could go check me out on MySpace. And my name's Timmy Joe. Cue up the intro. We'll build this PC into the most badass PC ever in 2007.
Timmy Joe makes the best reviews on YouTube about computer parts and more.
I can't do it anymore, guys. I cannot do the act. Okay, it's 2018. Trump's president. George Bush is. Let's stop talking about politics. Why are you doing it to me? We got Unigen Heaven running. We have the system going. I'm frustrated as hell because I've been benchmarking an 11-year-old system with SLI in it, and it's been a lot of blue screens, a lot of weird stuff, a lot of whatever, but not as bad as I was maybe expecting. It worked, like everything worked off the hop. It's more that the age of the components, and one's running like 10 degrees hotter than the other, and I could take them apart and do, but it's not my cards, so we're running everything in stock. But the system is as follows. We have the Q6600, an awesome quad-core processor, still relevant today. It gets about 300 in Cinebench if you have it running at 3 gigahertz. I couldn't get it to run at 3 gigahertz. I'm at 2.75 on this motherboard. It's a weird motherboard, has weird settings. I even tried updating the BIOS using a freaking floppy disk, which if you were following me on Twitter, you would know a little bit about. But I rolled my sleeves up, and I got the BIOS up to date. I was trying, and I don't know if it's a CPU cooler's not good enough, even though the temperatures aren't that bad. It's just not going at 3 gigahertz, but 2.75, 4 gigs of RAM running at 800 DDR2. And the SLI is working. I had to switch the little card, bloop, 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 and it's working. And it works in like everything I try. It seems it does benefit performance. We'll be looking at some benchmarks in a few minutes here, but I'm just going to go over all the fun stuff I've gone through with this thing. Basically, I'm cold because it's still Canada here and spring's barely sprung yet, but the space heater, whew, feels good over here. They get hot, these things, and you get everything running, and then you get a couple benchmarks in, and it blue screens. Does that weird? This system says call your administrator. Like, it's a weird error that I don't know if it's a Windows 7 specific thing or if it's something that happens with the drivers in SLI, but it gives you this weird error you see here, and I got the benchmarks done though, and I'm surprised at the things it'll run. It's DirectX 10 compatible, so not so bad to run things like Tomb Raider or the revamp, or it plays CS:GO for God's sakes, at acceptable frame rates in 720p. Even a single card might get you along if you were a budget gamer, but basically these were just super overclocked versions of the GTX 8800 GTX or whatever, and there were other versions, GTs and below it. This was these were binge chips, and they could get up to 615, and if you try and overclock them anymore, it might go to like 650 if you had the fan profile set like crazy. But anytime I overclocked them, in my first benchmark, eventually something would happen, and it was rare that an overclock stuck. So I just kept the GPUs running at stock because they were working, and I'm actually surprised it worked so well. But let's talk price, okay? Boof. Made a little chart. The 8800 Ultra at launch was $830. If you wanted two of them, now it makes sense. SLI, was really well supported back then because the performance kept getting crazier and crazier every year. And if you wanted to stay relevant with a card you spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars on, you might go in the bargain bin and buy it for half the price and stick another one in your system and get another couple of years of life out of your GPU. Nowadays, SLI is pretty much gone by the wayside. It's barely supported, if at all. And back then it was common to see even 3 graphics cards in computers, at least if Linus Tech Tips was running them or whatever. But $830, and then 3 years later you have this beast launch, which is in a whole other fucking league, man. To prove the point, this is the 4 Series mid-range, the GTS 450. This card is faster than the SLI cards that are in there and would sip about 20% of the power. So think on that. 3 years later, and GPUs went that nuts, and these are still relevant cards today. And now we're living in a time where 3 years ago, the 980 Ti was king, and it's still faster than 1070, which is one of the faster cards out there right now. And I know we're on the verge of a revamp, but the performance is nowhere near as crazy and a doubling every year and stuff like that as it was back then. So the Core 2 Quad at launch was $851. It did go down in price, but let's talk launch prices for all this stuff around the beginning of the year in 2007. RAM about $80. Case and PSU were around $80 to $100. The CPU cooler might have been $40. It's a weird Flower Zalman one. I have an SSD in this thing. SSDs were a thing back then. Very expensive stuff, but I couldn't really find a price. I just guessed at $120 for only 32 gig drive. 250 gig 8 hard drive, regular one with $80. CD-ROM drive, because you need one of those, Whoop, put them in the front here. $40. This is a $3,000 system at the beginning of 2007, and now it's worth nostalgia purposes. It wasn't long before all that stuff came down in price, but $3,000 system right here. That's impressive stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna shut Unigen off because it's so loud and hot over here, but. The scaling on this it's pretty good. Most games will see like a 70% improvement, as we'll see in the benchmarks in just a second. So we see here the pass mark score of just one of these cards is 783, and the 3 years later GPU here, the 480, 4,358. And to prove my point about this little guy being faster than the SLI setup I have in there, that's the score 1,557 pass mark score for the GTS 450. So that just shows how far things have come, or at least how far they came in three years. So let's go ahead and we'll check out some benchmarks. These are very painstakingly taken, so I hope you appreciate them. It's hours and hours of just trying to get all these video clips in and check out the numbers, so I hope you appreciate them. And then we'll just come back and we'll do a really quick summation, because this video is getting long enough as it is. Yes, it's 2007, and I want it to be 2007 again. I was still in my 20s. Now I'm 34. I'm 38. No, I'm 34. So we're back, and benchmarks, the benchmarks are benchmarks. We see single card versus dual card performance there, and I did all the game capture at 720p at the highest, playable settings or whatever, what have you. But it was painstaking to get that done. A lot of crashes, a lot of this weird blue screen that said call your system provider that I never saw before, as you see here. And I'm pretty sure that's just something to do with SLI and the driver. But in the end, running SLI is a bitch when the cards are new, or when the cards aren't well used in some old system. And I could have chosen to put this on my test bench and run the SLI that way, but I think it's fun to load up this old hardware and check out how far we've come. And I would have been so stoked to have this 10 years ago. I was running a gaming laptop back then with a Core 2 Duo and like a really watered down version of this 8000 series mobile in my laptop. I remember playing Mirror's Edge and being like, wow, check out all the graphics. But this would have been a cool system, and I'm going to give it back to my buddy now that I'm done with the testing. I'm going to take the GPUs out of it, though. But it was pretty cool to take a little gander back in time. And if there's one thing I could take away from this is being from around 2007, 11 years ago, the graphics cards are completely out of date. And the motherboard technology, and it doesn't even have USB 3. It barely has any USB ports. This thing only has like 4 SATA ports on board. So there are limitations to this. But the Q6600 was totally worth that $800 price tag back then, because it's still relevant today, and that the socket and this generation of Intel CPU is still widely used around the world, and we'll get 300 in Cinebench if you overclock it properly. That is no joke. That is still worthwhile performance, especially if you pair it with the right sort of modern hardware, and maybe like a 1050 or a 750 Ti. You can play some damn video games with this CPU still and not have it bottleneck the system, where those graphics cards are basically fucking done. So I'll see you guys in another video. Thank you very much for watching. I'm at Watch Timmy Joe. It's always good to freaking go to Patreon and throw me a couple bucks, or if you have some old weird hardware, like the viewer that gave me 2 of these to test out, you could go ahead and email me at timmyjoe.com. But I'm gonna leave you guys with 40,000 freaking subscribers, and I'm only just getting started. But guys, it's just I can't thank you guys enough for getting me to this point, and I hope you enjoy my weird sense of humor, my happy-go-lucky attitude towards hardware, all that freaking stuff. But I gotta go, because I gotta go to work. That's right, still working for the man every night and day. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much.